Why European Union rules on common chargers could result in iPhone without charging ports. We explain why the EU wants every phone to have the same charger and what the directive means for the tech industry. The European Commission Thursday proposed a new rule that will force all manufacturers of mobile phones and other electronics to adopt a single universal charging solution. An 18-page directive clearly stated that a common charger for all brands would benefit consumers and reduce electronic waste. But if there is one brand that will be impacted the most by the move, it would be Apple, which will be forced to redesign its iPhones from ground up to comply with the rules. We explain why the EU wants every phone to have the same charger and what the directive means for tech industry. EU proposes universal charger for all phones. For years, the European Parliament has been pushing for a common charger for mobile phones, but this week the European Commission, the EU's executive branch, announced a new plan to standardize charging ports for consumer electronic devices like smartphones and tablets being sold within the 25-nation bloc. The new proposal appears to be more forceful and once adopted will make it mandatory to use USB-C as the common standard for almost all phones and other small mobile electronic devices. The legislative proposal will be first debated by the European Parliament to become a law. The Parliament has already voted in favor of new rules on a common charger in 2020. Device manufacturers would only have 24 months to comply with the rules and make changes in their products accordingly. European consumers were frustrated long enough about incompatible chargers piling up in their drawers. Margaret Vestager, the European Commission Executive Vice President, said in a press release, "We gave industry plenty of time to come up with their solutions. Now time is ripe for legislative action for a common charger." The revised Radio Equipment Directive proposal is aimed at favoring a common USB-C charging port that will be convenient for consumers, but the move also reduces waste. The directive proposal would also establish a harmonized fast charging technology that will prevent manufacturers from throttling charging speed. So when a consumer buys a device without a charger, proper guidelines needs to be given about the charging standards their device supports. Unlike the Brazilian regulator, which keeps insisting manufacturers bundle the charger inside the device box, the European Commission is in favor of unbundling the charger from new products. The move will affect smartphones, tablets, headphones, cameras, speakers, and video game consoles. What is USB-C? USB stands for Universal Serial Bus, an industry standard for short distance digital data communication. USB-C is the latest version of the standard and is symmetrical so that it can be inserted either way. The USB-C is a single cable that can transmit data, audio, video, and power. For example, you can connect your laptop to an external monitor using a USB-C cable. This is much faster than USB 2.0. Some of the most popular Android smartphones, including Samsung Galaxy S21, Nintendo Switch, Dell XPS 13, MacBooks, and even iPads support USB-C. Half of chargers sold with mobile phones in the European Union in 2018 had a USB micro B connector, while 29% had a USB-C connector and 21% a Lightning connector, a Commission Impact Assessment study in 2019 found. Why is the European Union's proposal to make a common charger port for all devices bad news for Apple? Unlike Samsung, which ships its Galaxy smartphones with USB-C ports, Apple uses its proprietary Lightning connector to charge the iPhone. The Lightning connector was introduced in 2012 with the arrival of the iPhone 5, and since the Apple has stuck to the Lightning connector on its most successful product, although its other products like iPad Air 4 and recent MacBooks now use USB-C instead of Lightning as its standard connector. Even Apple's latest iPhone 13 series uses the standard Lightning connector for charging. If the European Commission moves ahead with its plans to make common chargers mandatory on all smartphones, the move would hurt Apple more than its rivals, including Samsung, OnePlus, and Xiaomi. For years, Apple has resisted the idea of putting the standard port on its devices, especially on the iPhone, perhaps the most successful product of the past decade. And there is a reason why the iPhone still supports the Lightning connector and not USB C. By removing the Lightning connector from the iPhone means Apple will take a hit on its lucrative accessories business. There is an ecosystem around a Lightning connector, and killing it immediately will create an issue for the accessories maker. Plus, the move could be troublesome, especially for consumers. The Cupertino company has repeatedly warned that European Union proposal for a common charger would hurt innovation and create a mountain of electronic waste if consumers are forced to switch to new chargers. Apple stands for innovation, the company wrote in a 2019 feedback form opposing the initiative. We want to ensure that any new legislation will not result in the shipment of any unnecessary cables or external adapters with every device or render obsolete the devices and accessories used by many millions of Europeans and hundreds of millions of Apple customers worldwide, it added. What will Apple do next? Europe is a crucial market for Apple, but Apple does not make country specific products. So don't expect that strategy will change even if European lawmakers will successfully standardize charging ports for devices like smartphones and tablets. Apple has two options: either switch to iPhone to USB C or develop a portless iPhone instead. According to state site The Verge, the European Commission proposal is limited to standardized wire charging and not wireless charging. This means that if iPhone goes fully wireless in future, Apple does not have to add a USB-C port. That makes a way for Apple to ship with a portless iPhone and get rid of wires completely. It is to be noted that the Commission proposal need to first get nod from the European Parliament and Council. Plus, there is a 2-year transition period that would allow Apple to launch fully wireless and portless iPhone. Chances of the future iPhone without ports makes more sense, and Apple is already hinting at portless future through MagSafe, the wireless charging system taking advantage of an array of magnets that snap the iPhone 12, 13 Pro into a MagSafe puck. This whole idea of MagSafe bypasses the need to having a lightning connector through iPhone still have the charger system, but it no longer ships the wall adapter and wired earphones in the box. In fact, past reports have claimed that Apple would ship the iPhone without ports and switch completely to wireless charging. Apple is not averse to drastic changes in the iPhone. For instance, it killed the 3.5 mm headphone jack with iPhone 7, and the entire smartphone industry followed the move and ditched the headphone jack from their flagship phones. While Apple first embraced wireless charging by adding the QI based wireless inductive charging to this iPhone 8 and X in 2017, the truth in this technology is significantly slower than old fashioned wall adapter. The iPhone 13 series, for instance, supports QI charging of up to 7.5 watt and MagSafe wireless charging up to 15 watt. OnePlus 9 Pro, in contrast, supports 50 watt wireless charging. Xiaomi recently announced a 100 watt wireless charger stand which can fully charge 4500 ampere battery of the MI MX4 in 28 minutes. So yes, things are improving every year, though for now wireless charging is still in the initial phase. Apple hasn't succeeded with a standalone wireless charger yet. It tried its hands at building the AirPower wireless charger but eventually failed to ship the device, citing technical challenges. Reports of new wireless charger pad have been circulating for months, though it remains to be seen whether Apple manages to launch the product or it will face the same fate as the AirPower. Thank you.